Welcome to the Core Connections podcast on YouTube. Hey, I'm Erica Zeal. I'm a nutrition coach, Pilates instructor, fascial worker, mom of 3, creator of the Core Rehab program, Core Athletica, instructor training programs, and the Nocta Fitness membership. And my Core Connections podcast is designed so that I can help share information with you to help improve your quality of life. So tune in to this episode. Today's video, I'm going to teach you about creating space through your body, which circles back and involves a lot about your fascia. So when it comes to creating space, and if you've listened to anything else I've taught, you've heard me talk about lengthening. And the cue to lengthen your body really has a lot to do with improving our fascial lengthening, right? So when we move throughout our day, we want to think about lifting up through our body. So we're strengthening our muscles, but we're also strengthening our fascia to support our bones in that position. So when we think about creating space through the body, what we're doing is we think of the skeleton of the body, right? So if you guys can visualize any skeleton you've seen, right? And if you actually look at an anatomically correct one, you notice that all of the bones are held together by little like clips or something, right? The bones aren't actually held together by bones, right? Bones have ligaments, and which any ligament, any sort of tissue in there, it all has to do with fascia. So if you've ever, noticed you have a little aches and pain in your low back or your neck, and you start to focus on lengthening through your body, it could initially give you just a little bit of relief, right? Because we're working to create more space between the vertebrae, and we're also working to strengthen the muscles and to strengthen and create better quality fascia along our spine, right? Now imagine if you did that on a regular basis. It's not easy initially, right? It's creating new habits, but in time, as you focus more on that, we'll start to create more space. So I'm going to show a couple examples in this video, and a lot of these I teach through my programs because it's very, very important, and this is a big piece of the fundamentals of strengthening your core and creating the space through your body, right? So if we're thinking about lengthening tall and we go upward, right, you have to activate your core lightly. You just have to. And when the core is working and not drawing belly to spine, right, we don't want to draw belly to spine. You guys, if you're not sure what I'm talking about on that, we will add the link below to that video as well, so you can learn a little bit more about that. But we want to always be lifting upward. So we're encouraging space, right? So again, if we go back to that visualization of the skeleton, an anatomically correct skeleton, hanging, it's held together by little pieces, right? So in our body, our bones are relying on our fascial system really more than anything to give it the support it needs. Again, muscular strength is important, but fascia actually can be stronger than our muscular system. So it's quite fascinating, but we need a balance of both. So today, focusing on the space, creating space through the vertebrae, but then I also want to add my arms. I'm going to show you all something is with my arms. If I reach my arm out and I just reach my arm out and I don't really think about it, so you can try this at home. Like if you just reach your arm out, you don't think about it. A lot of times you start to feel the tension up here in your traps, right? So a lot of times we get this oh, my traps are so tight, and we just want to roll the shoulders and jam them down. Well, the more you roll the shoulders and the more you jam them down, the more that tissue on the top wants to fight and grip and grab, right? So if we think about lengthening through the body, and when we reach our arm, we actually want to reach a little bit more underneath the armpit, kind of around the rib cage. And if we lengthen tall and we reach, and we think about reaching through our middle finger, through our pinky, all of a sudden you might start to feel, oh, well, I might have a little restriction in my chest. That's normal, but I can feel a little support here, and I want to lengthen. We want to create space through the shoulders versus just allowing our muscles to do all the work. Okay, so it's something to do with arms, right? If we're reaching our arms out and we're trying to create space through our chest, because we, with so much time we spend during our day rounded forward, the fascia, the more we do this, the fascia is going to want to go that direction. The fascia will move in the direction that your body moves. So if you're in a position, there's something going on with your alignment that you're not loving, then we have to reevaluate, okay, well, how am I carrying my body throughout my day, right? So some chest stuff is just working to lengthen and just reach and visualize like you're trying to open and expand your chest and your ribs outward. So we're creating more space through our thoracic and through our ribs and through our chest. Okay, so it's something we think about with the arms, and if we reach like middle finger to middle finger, you can even do some like side to side, you start to feel some space. start to feel the core activate, and all of a sudden you start to feel more length through the body. And yeah, you're going to start to feel more muscular activation, but more importantly, we're going to start to tap into these fascial lines, which I know you've all heard me talk about before. Okay, so let's go down into the hips and talking about space in our hips. Now, our hips can get a little wonky when we start talking about creating space, because there's so many bones that come together in the pelvis, right? We have our two sides of our pelvis, and we have the vertebrae, which comes on into the sacrum, and then the coccyx and all of that down there, and then we have the hip bones, which then down into the femurs. So hips are a big area where I work a lot with my clients and my students on creating space, because if, say you're a mom and you're holding a baby on one side, well, one hip can get hiked up and moved, and then we start getting all these chain reactions through the body. But if we're more conscious throughout our day, or when we're working out, doing our core rehab program, whatever it might be, then you're working to create length and space. So just standing here, and I want you to do this with me because I want you to feel this. So with our feet, maybe walk in place, feet pressing into the ground, and I want you to think of the lengthening I talk about through the torso, but now feel a little energy on the bottom of your feet, like pushing lightly into the ground. You want to feel like you're pulling up through the quads, through the low belly, activating the muscles a little bit, just to create this tensegrity, right? That fascial tensegrity connection through the body. So it's light, and initially you might not really feel anything I'm talking about. That's okay. This again is things that it can take time to feel all of this, but in time you do, and you will. So with our feet pushing into the ground and feeling that little bit of energy pushing down, and then we want to pull up through the body, all of a sudden you start to feel some traction through the body. You're creating your own traction, which is pretty cool that you can do that. But something else to think about, that if that one feels, you're like, okay, I don't really feel that, or maybe I do. Either way, try it, keep practicing it, see if you just become a little bit more aware. And this is a good thing you can do if you're standing somewhere waiting in line, right? You're like, instead of just standing and like letting your hip pop out, or your knees lock, or your back, right? You could be like, oh, I'm gonna do just a little bit of fascial connection while I'm waiting in line for whatever it is it might be, right? Okay, so this next one I like, and I teach this when I teach like standing rotations, right? If you've done that exercise at all. But if I'm gonna take one leg out, just to show you so I can create more space, if I'm reaching through my big toe, and so the biggest thing is when we start talking more fascial lines and creating space, we have to become and bring more awareness to what's happening with our fingers and our toes. So if we just stop before we get to our fingers, we haven't exhausted the full line of that fascial line. So you're not gonna get as intense of a connection or a result by just stopping before you get to your fingers or your toes. So if I'm gonna reach out through, say, my left foot here, and I'm reaching through my toe, I can actually start to, and you can too at home, reaching through your big toe, you're reaching through there, and you wanna feel through your body like you've got this energy pointing down, and you're pulling up through the body, starting to feel some wrapping around the hip, and you're gonna start to create some space through here, right? And then you can also add your arm and feel this just like nice pull, okay? Now, if we do rotation, right, we're rotating this way, and we start to feel space because we're reaching through that toe. We've got some muscle activation, yes, but I will challenge you to go deeper into the body. So we feel and visualize between all your bones, you're actually creating more space, length, and reach, okay? So that's a big piece. And then you may notice that if you go to the other side, you may connect better, or maybe you don't connect as well on that side. And so just pay a little bit more attention to that. But if we start to really, like, we're pushing through the toe, we're lifting up through, so we're getting some connection through the deep core, reaching through that opposite arm just to feel that full kind of like spiral line. And then we can also add rotation. So you start to feel space, which can also open up if you're getting any pressure in your low back as well. But I will tell you, there's a lot of back and forth with the hips and the back, which is causing what to hurt, right? So creating that space can really, really help, especially if there's any sort of nerve type stuff happening, because it doesn't always come from the sacrum. Sometimes it comes from the hips, and we just need to rebalance the hips and create a little bit more space. Okay, the next piece I wanted to show a little bit with is through the heels. So we have the toe, but we also have the heel. So sometimes it's neat what we can get when we reach through the heel. And I teach a lot of aspects of this, say on the Pilates Reformer or many exercises. But if you just start to think of the lines and okay, I'm reaching all the way through the foot, I'm not just gonna stop at my calf, right? We want to actually use the full leg. So if I put my foot down here, or I want to pull my toes up, you're obviously going to feel a stretch through the back line, and you can play around with where your foot is. Maybe I want to stretch it back like this, pushing into the heel, and really feel like I'm lifting, activating, and maybe we even add some rotation. And I love rotation, as you know, because it gets into the spiral lines of the body. Same thing with the other foot. Heel down, because when we put the heel versus the toe, play around how it feels different for your body, but we want a grounding point in the body. And then lifting, and again, you can rotate. You don't have to, I like to lift and do the rotations there, but this is really to just bring some more awareness and to teach you, okay, I need support underneath that hip, but here I can feel like I'm lifting up and getting like this nice, it's an active stretch that you're doing for your hips without doing a lot of movement, and it's super gentle, and you're doing all the work yourself without having to rely on resistance from a weight or a machine or anything else. So there's so much that you can do, but if we just begin our days by thinking about lengthening, remember, feet, and even if you're sitting down at a desk, that's fine, but think about from the base of the sits bones, pelvis, you're lengthening upward always, and when you're standing, if you have a standing desk, which I highly recommend that you do, that you stand when you can, and bring more awareness to what's happening inside your body. And if you just start thinking about creating more space in your body, it could be incredible the results that you could experience from that, getting rid of aches and pains and doing all that. And of course I have my core rehab program to teach you even more in depth about strengthening your deep core. And because our deep core is involved in everything of our body, you're going to learn a whole lot about your full body, not just your core, because it's all involved together. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you guys next time.